Hello everyone, welcome to Life of Emerald. We present Sacred Healing Summit today and we present Summit number 3. It is going to be about balance, power, and mental wellness. We have 4 panelists joining us today from all over the world. Before we get there, our goal today is speak about what power balance means to us and share practical ideas of cultivating mental well-being in 2020. So here we meet our panelist, Jenny D. Harris. She is calling from London. She can be reached on facebook.com, jennifer.harris9693. Our second panelist is Sierra Melker. She is calling from Colombia, the country. And she can be reached at theintegralwoman@gmail.com. And our third panelist is Dr. Adrian McKeen.
McKeen.
Thank you, McKeen.
You bet.
And she can be reached at that'sallowed.com. And finally, our fourth panelist is Sarah Weaver, and she is calling from New Zealand today. And her Instagram handle is Sarah D. Weaver. And I am Cate Lee, also known as Emerald. My Instagram is lifeofemerald_s, and I'm calling in from Seoul. Now let's pop out of the screen here and meet our panelists, everyone. Hi. So today our summit is about bringing awareness to what balance means and what power means, and the implication of mental well-being amongst living our life as a woman. And so the key question I would like to ask our panelists to share your life experience is this. When have you experienced both powerlessness and powerfulness? And what life experience has helped you learn balance? Ladies, please take it away.
All right, I'll be brave and start. So hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Adrian McKeen, and I'm also known as the Story Whisperer. And what I do is I help people to align to their core message and tell the story not only of how they got to where they are now, but the story of where they're going, what they want to become. So I have a story that I wanted to share about power balance, but are we doing introductions first, or are we doing our story as well?
Thanks for the reminder. Can we do introduction first? Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll go next. So, hi everyone, my name is Jenny Harris and I am over the water in England. My background is actually in policing, but now I help women in business who are just not feeling themselves, feeling a bit tired, a bit exhausted. Life is just out of balance for them. So I help them by helping them show up as the best version of themselves every single day, and I do that using a really simple to follow nutritional system, which I'm so positive it works for them that it comes with a money back guarantee. So today I'm just here to share with you exactly how you, or certainly the introduction that Cate gave us about powerfulness and powerlessness, and I hope you get a lot from what we're going to share with you.
I'll take it away. My name is Sierra Melker. I am the founder of Integral Women, and one of our missions is really to, like so many of the women here, really empower women into, this is a great word, right? Empower. There's so many meanings to this word power, and I'm going to, in my short story, I'm going to share like a new lens on it. But when we are misaligned, we are out of balance with who we are and our power and our sense of self. So one of the things that I teach the women that I work with is how to go from being misaligned to becoming misaligned, where the subtlest of shifts, like both in the spelling of the words, can have the most radical results, because I think one of the things that we misunderstand is that big change has to come from big action. So I will share my story later, but I'm so glad to be here with you all. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. And thanks, Cate, for having us. I'm Sarah Weaver, and I believe that you should live where you want, but invest where the numbers make sense. I have worked remotely for the last 5 years in what's thought to be a pretty location-dependent industry, real estate. And I've traveled to more than 40 countries. And I not only help people invest in real estate, but I really want to encourage people not to be afraid to talk about money. I use these conversations to encourage people, especially women, to use money and talking about money to take action to live a better life, not only for you, but for those around you.
All right, Lago. My name is Cate Emerald. I am based in Seoul. I have been a teacher for 15 years, both Seoul and the Bay Area. And I'm currently building a business with Stanford Graduate School of Business. And I really care about women, men, humanity, and poverty alleviation. And Sarah spoke about not being afraid of speaking about money. I am calling in to become very, very wealthy so I can help many people in need. And my ancestors are kings of South Korea and noble scholars of Shilla dynasty. And I'm really excited for all of us to join and share your life lived wisdom. So the question about when have you experienced both powerlessness and powerfulness, and what life experience has helped you learn balance. We have a lot to uncover here. Who would like to go first?
I'll go ahead and go first again. Seems to be my lot. So the story that I wanted to share today starts actually with an extreme kind of powerlessness. I was in a very abusive relationship in which I was almost killed a couple of times. You can read the whole story in my book, Melting Ivory, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. What I'm here to talk about is that after that experience, I started to unconsciously take on some of the tactics and traits of my abuser in my relationships. Now, I didn't realize that I was doing that at the time, but looking back, that's exactly what I was doing. And I started to realize that even though I was doing these things that I thought would give me power, they weren't. They were not giving me any kind of power, because what I realized was I was still coming at it from a reactive point of view. I was still reacting to what other people were doing, and I was just using these tactics to try to manipulate them and to get them to do what I wanted them to do, instead of coming from a place of being deliberate, deciding what I wanted to have happen and proactively trying to make that happen. And that's what finally clicked for me and started to help me find my actual power, is to realize I needed to figure out what I wanted, first of all, because if you don't have a goal, then how can you be successful in reaching that goal? If you don't know what you want, you ain't gonna get it. And so that was for me a big shift in my mind, not just recognizing, oh, I'm using these kind of dirty manipulative tactics, that's yucky, that doesn't feel good, but also realizing that they weren't getting me what I actually wanted, because all I wanted at that point was for people to stop being mean or leave me alone, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was very much reactive at the time. So in terms of talking about power balance, I want you to really think about, what do you want? And from that place, that's where you can really find your power and figure out how to get it.
Can I follow that? Because that was, thank you. The power of story, you know this, story whisperer, the
Yes.
power of story, it's in our bones, it's in our soul. For centuries, we've sat around fires and shared stories as a way of building community and culture and learning language and all of this. I love words, misaligned to misaligned, like anything that can just like take one little concept and crack it wide open. The story that I wanted to share has some echoes, but it's totally different. So when Cate, you asked, when did I feel most powerful and most powerless? There was an instant where I felt both. And it was when I gave birth to my daughter. There is nothing more powerful than giving birth. And it was the giving birth process that then launched me into this other spiritual personal development. And I had a daughter, and I'm looking at the world, and I'm like, okay, there's something's got to shift energetically on this planet. And the hologram is, I am the planet that I can shift. I am the whole universe that I can shift. And so giving birth was unbelievable. It was where, for the very first time, I felt my power as a human. I felt the power of my body. I felt completely aligned, and I had no part of it on some level. And this is where my concept of I really shifted. Up until the moment I gave birth, and maybe a little bit while I was pregnant, I had been from here up. The I that I was, and I had been taught to be my whole life, was in my head. My mental conception of who I was, what I could think, being celebrated for intellectual and physical make stuff happen in the world, that was I. And being pregnant, there was a whole other I. There was a whole other part of myself that was doing really big and important things that I up here had absolutely no control over. There were days where, like, I'm making a spinal column, but there was no conscious part of me that was doing that. And so being pregnant, giving birth, I absolutely could not control my contractions. I could not control how long it lasted. None of that was under my control. But at the same time, it was the most powerful experience of my life. And this is one of the things that I work with sharing with the world is I feel like if we're believing that I and all of our concepts are external, tangible, out here, then we're missing half of the whole picture, that there is this internal space that once we discover, we can explore and navigate, and it becomes accessible to us until we recognize that there's this whole other, at least 50% of the universe. And Cate, you and I spoke about this, like the tip of the iceberg, right? What if all we know and have ever experienced is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's all of this stuff down here? And so birth, again, but quite literally was an empowering and out of control experience I've ever had in my whole life. And so this word power, and Sarah, I love that you bring up money, because money and energy and power are concepts, but also something in our bones, and that we have a lot more capacity with than I think we think, because of the words that we associate with, like power. Oh, it's out there, I don't have it. Money, it's out there, I don't have it. But energy is something we all have, and we have all this access to. And so the word that I use when I talk about power with my community is agency. This capacity to influence, which we all have agency. It just feels a lot more accessible to me. So that's my story, and it taught me a lot. I'm just beginning. Thank you for letting me share that.
Oh, that's rich. I haven't thought about that in that angle, giving birth as powerful and powerlessness. That's very unique. And Dr. Adrian, you can relate to that because you have a child as well. And Jenny, you have a child. Yeah.
I have two.
Yeah, you two children. Sarah, do you have a kid?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Okay, so if it's okay with you, I will share my story. And thank you, Sarah and Dr. Adrian, for sharing yours. They were both incredible. Mine is going to be slightly different, in as much as my powerlessness was in at work. And it came after I had my second son. So I had my second son, and with all the elation of becoming a mom for the second time, work was always that thing that I was going to have to go back to. And I went back to ask about my hours and how I was going to manage my two children and continue to work full time. And I was met with a loss of hostility. And I remember on the day I was actually sat there with my son who was with me. He was 6 weeks old, and to be told by my boss that I was going to have to continue to work shifts like I had done previously before I'd had my children, and it just wasn't possible. And the struggle that then happened as a result of that was there was a lot of conflict, a huge amount of conflict, in fact, where I felt completely powerless because my whole world was being turned upside down by literally by one person. One person made a decision about me and where I fitted into the organization that left me feeling powerless. But in the same breath, where something happens to you and you feel powerless, in that same breath was when I realized that, and I think Sarah just touched on it, in that moment where you go from feeling powerless to powerful, or it might have been Dr. Adrian, is when you decide what you want. And I decided both what I wanted and what I didn't want at the same time. I thought, just because I'm now a mom of two, I didn't want to be pushed around by an organization, and I wanted to be a mom to both my boys. So I wasn't going to accept the things that had been said to me or what I'd seen happen to other people around me. And that was when it was quite bizarre, at a moment when I actually felt my most powerless, and my weakest was when I found my greatest strength. Because I made a decision. I made a decision that this wasn't going to go down this way. And it took me a long time. It took a while, but I became almost I can't think of the word I'm trying to use. But I set a whole new, I shifted a lot of stuff that had been happening at work and kind of blazed a path and changed the whole way the system worked at work, because I made a decision, because I decided that I wasn't going to allow my powers to be taken away from me. So it's at those times, and this is what a message I always give to people, is it's at those times when you do feel your least powerful, is when you decide what you want. And I'm sure that's what Adrian touched on it. As soon as you make a decision about what it is that you want, that is when you find your power, because everything seems to just happen to give you that strength to take that step forward and not look back. So mine was work. It definitely was a horrible time, but when I came at the end of it, I made such a difference to the lives, not only of my own life, but the lives of other women that came after me. It was definitely worth doing. That's my story.
Thanks for sharing that as well.
That was fantastic. Yeah, thank you. I think for me, it's less of a monumental moment, but it's something that happens often for me. And I'm an incredibly action-oriented person. If there's a problem, I'm like, great, how can we fix it? Let's fix it now. I'm not going to wait another 5 minutes. And so what I'd like to give the audience is this tool that I've put in my toolkit recently, which is the idea that instead of comparing yourself to others all the time, start comparing yourself to yourself. I think, Jenny, you said it. You said, I want to be the best version of myself. And that's something that you help women do. And I found that the most powerful thing I did is when I'm feeling incredibly powerless and I'm comparing myself to, frankly, a lot of really incredibly successful people, really wealthy people, people who are 20, 30, 50 steps ahead of me. I am so ambitious and driven that I start to feel like crap. And I found that the easiest way to snap out of that is to focus on me and my lane and start looking at people that are 2 steps ahead of me, not 20, because it's not fair to compare where I am today to someone who's 10 years ahead of me. They were probably in my shoes 10 years ago. So how on earth could I compare myself to where they are now? And so one thing I want to give the audience is this tool of switching from powerlessness to powerfulness in an instant, which is grabbing a pen and paper and writing down all the things that you're feeling right now. And then look at, okay, this is where I want to be. So I love Jenny and Adrian, you guys are talking about goals and where you want to be. I will touch on more on that later, but it's writing that out and looking at where you were last week, last quarter, last year, 5 years ago, and going ahead and taking the moment to applaud where you're going. And frankly, if you're not going anywhere and you're still where you were 5 years ago, then let's make an action plan. Because what you're doing isn't working. And that's okay. It doesn't make you a terrible person. It doesn't mean that you're behind. It just means it's time for a change.
Love it.
Yeah. I can relate to everyone you shared, Sarah, Sierra, Dr. Adrian, and Jenny. I can definitely implement, all of that you shared, except for I'm not sure if I'm a child or not. But anyway, so the notion of getting your idea on paper and let the paper sort of guide you to manifest the goal, because it's, this is what you want. And Dr. Adrian, you mentioned about by knowing what you want, you are able to take your power back. And that taking the power back is the very essence of feeling healthy again, the balance, right? So that the murkiness of, I know sort of what I want and I don't know I know sort of what I don't want, but it's sort of gray, it's murky, so I'm going to use these tactics. And I'm sure I've been there, but the moment that you know exactly what you want and you write this down on paper and let the paper, I like to call it guide me, because it's a visual thing, I'm able to say, okay, I wake up, I remember, okay, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do today, and things like that can really drive me forward. And Sarah, you mentioned about taking actionable steps. And I love that mentioning of, don't feel bad about it if you haven't moved an inch, 5 years, for 5 years, decide now. Decide now. And Jenny, I can relate to you about the work, the dynamic, the politics. It's sometimes it gives a lot of headache. But you can, it's like a learning ecosystem at work as well. You were able to take your power back, getting in touch with what you really want. You wanted to be a mother of your 2 sons, and like the process of like hearing you, non-compromising that value, and letting everything shed away is amazing. And Sierra, your story about birthing your child and getting from the head center to your body and heart center with this phenomenon of giving birth to a child, and you're unknowingly giving, unknowingly thinking, okay, I'm creating a spinal column and things like that. So mysterious. And the paradox here is we can feel this powerfulness and powerlessness at the same time. It's really, really unique, our life experience. Briefly about my powerlessness and powerful. I was told that I am crazy when I shared this story about my experience with ghost. And fast forward, my dad brought me to a hospital, and doctor ordered me to be in the mental hospital for 3 months. And that was really a moment of feeling powerlessness, just because I have my own truth and was able to innocently share just readily. And the journey, 11 years of reclaiming my power back, identifying what I want, what I don't want, has been really like a gift. Every step of the journey is a gift, and that gift, the process of life, has really given me the conviction and self-confidence in what I want to do with my life, and this is the sacred life. And so our second question to you ladies is about how those life challenges that you shared just now has impacted or enhanced your mental well-being. What was your journey like?
So you said something that I wanted to touch on a little bit. We talk a lot about what we don't want. And I think people very readily can find that, like, I don't want that. Like, maybe I don't know exactly what I want, but I know what I don't want, right? So that's a good place to start, but then you have to move beyond that, because if you stay in that place of, I don't want this, what you resist persists, and what you focus on becomes your reality. So the more focus you put on this, like, I don't want this, the more you get that thing. And so the big way that I think shifted for me and how that affected my life was bridging that gap of not, I don't want to be treated this way anymore, to, wait, how do I want to be treated? How do I want to treat myself? How do I want to model for other people how I should be treated? And so it was that really started to change my life, where I was starting to treat myself in the way that I wanted to be treated, and to figure out what that was. It sounds obvious, and yet it took me like 10 years just to figure out, like, how, yeah.
I love that you're talking about this, because this is exactly where my head was, is I love what you said, Cate, of if you haven't moved an inch in 5 years. And that got me thinking, you probably don't really want it. Like, whatever that is, if you haven't moved an inch in 5 years, then you probably don't want it enough. And maybe it's time to focus that energy on something that you actually do want.
Yeah.
And so I love what you're talking about. I think what you focus on gets bigger. And so if you're constantly focusing on what you don't want, or if you're focusing on the wrong freaking goal, like, it's okay if you don't want what your best friends want. It's okay if you don't want what your family wants for you.
Yeah.
If you haven't made any progress in that goal, you probably don't want it.
Yeah. One thing that really, really helps me is to make that shift from what do I want to what do I want to feel? Getting in touch with my core desired feelings and just figuring out, like, what do I want to feel more of? And then realizing, whoa, mind blown, I can actually feel that right now. Nobody can stop me. If I want to feel joy, I can feel joy. If I want to feel love, I can feel love. I can feel bliss. I can feel all these wonderful feelings. And I don't even need a reason for it. I can just decide to feel that way. And when you start to figure out, like you said, envision what you actually want to create in the world, and then pin feelings to that and feel more and more of those feelings, that's where the magic happens. Sierra, you're nodding. You want to add to that?
My whole body is nodding.
All of this is the secret.
So a couple of things that have come up so far, and then I want to play off of that as well. One of the things I think, if we have this perception that powerlessness or conflict or struggle is a bad thing, we're going to resist it. Like you said, we're going to push back on it. And when we push it, we're feeding it, right? Everything we don't want that we're doing this to, we're just giving it energy. And the metaphor of birth is constriction, right? Things have got to get real tight for things to move. And all all the stories we each shared are like something is pushing you to figure out who you are. And to, I don't think any one of us, I don't think anyone ever would step up to speak their truth, find out what their real purpose in life is, to do any of the hard things without that struggle ahead of time. And so I've really shifted my perception of struggle to a necessary step in development. And so when things get uncomfortable and tight and awful, I'm like, good, welcome. This is the step that I need to force me into the next step. There are, I mean, tragedies and things that are horrible and unjust, but focusing on that does not put the attention where we need it to go, right? Okay, this is causing me to rise. And if I wasn't so uncomfortable, I wouldn't do it because it's hard. And so if we can really look at struggle from this place of, okay, cool, I see this for what it is, instead of trying to like navigate around it, or like a lot of my clients are trying to just feel comfortable. And I was like, no, you don't want to feel comfortable. This no longer works. So don't try to make something that is familiar be comfortable. You have outgrown this thing. Grow, expand into the total mystery, the unknown, but get comfortable out here. Don't try to stay comfortable in something that no longer fits. And that's where the vision of like, how do I want to feel? What's this next thing like? Getting into the possibility of, because especially if we're living all in our minds are super powerful. The thoughts we have on our regular basis, the words we use to even introduce ourselves like we just did. With new people and when I'm holding that space, I'm like, tell me who you are, but don't tell me where you are or what you do for a living or any of the sort of mile markers. I want to know who you are underneath all of that, to open this possibility of like who we are becoming. So just some random thoughts on the theme.
I love all of that so much.
I've forgotten the question. What was the question?
Oh, yes. So when you were feeling powerlessness and powerful, what were the implications on your mental health? Was it how did it impact you, or how did it enhance you?
Okay, so just feeding back off what Sierra's just said in terms of pushing back against things and needing to be uncomfortable you need to get uncomfortable to get comfortable with being uncomfortable is kind of the thing. I, at the time when what was going on for me at work, it was very uncomfortable. It was probably the most uncomfortable, challenging, stressful thing I'd ever encountered. I felt that I was in a situation that was completely out of my control initially. And I did decide what I didn't want, but I also decided what I wanted. And off the back of that, I think I now see all of those things as lessons. I think things that make us uncomfortable, things that are difficult, things that can be challenging are lessons in disguise. I don't think anybody fails. I don't think we make mistakes. I think they're lessons. The only time they become mistakes and failures is if we don't learn from them. So that they're there for a reason. I truly believe that everything happened for a reason. I believe that at the time, certainly now, there had been a lot of instances gone before me where colleagues had experienced what I'd experienced, but they'd stayed comfortable. They'd stayed small. They decided that it was too difficult to do something about it. So they put up with it. And I came along and decided that wasn't going to be something that I was going to put with. My primary goal was to be a mom and be a good mom and be a present mom. So that needed to change for me. So I made myself very, very uncomfortable. And in terms of my mental well-being. It was a space I'd never been in. I felt very isolated. I felt out of control. And I'm a bit like Sarah, very driven, very goal orientated. I know where I'm going, and certainly when I make a decision, I get there as fast as I can. So this space at the time for me was an unknown place, and I found it very difficult. And at the time, I didn't know this, but at the time, my mental health, I was struggling. And I just had a baby. You know, my baby was, when this all started, my son was 6 weeks old. I'd got a 6-week-old baby and a 21-month-old baby. So I got my hands full, and with lack of sleep and stress with work, and you know, just being a mom, you know, I'd be crying 1 minute, you know, getting angry the next minute, and I struggled, and I started running. That's what I started to do. I started to run. And I don't know if anybody's seen the film Forrest Gump. I literally turned into the female version of Forrest Gump. I ran and I ran and I ran. And that really, when I was out running, the world looked like I could deal with anything. And that was where I found I had a lot of time to think. So, you know, I went from not being a runner, I couldn't run a step, to I could run 10, 15 miles and not even, but in that time, what it gave me was the time to think. It gave me clarity. It gave, I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it's the hormones and the all the things that's going on in your body, but it just, I would come back from a run, and however I felt before I left, which was usually not great, by the time I came back, I felt amazing, and I could deal with anything that was thrown at me. So that was my coping mechanism through that particular phase of my life. And I'm not saying everybody should run, but what I am saying is move yourself, because when you move, our bodies are meant to move. When we move our bodies, it just makes us feel better, whether it's for 10 minutes, half an hour, 3 hours, it doesn't matter. But do something that brings you joy, that you love doing. Don't go running just because that's what I've said. Do something that you love, that makes you feel good. And you know, we know that physical movement really helps our mind and our mental health.
I love it. And so I think a lot of people are probably going to tune in, especially with what's going on in the world, feeling pretty powerless. And they may be listening to this and thinking, okay, I'm sure as hell not running. I'm definitely not having a baby. And so what can I do right now to feel better? And so what are some like small action steps that someone listening to this in the unpredictable time that the year has handed us, what can they do starting right after this call that can start at least getting them going in the right direction of feeling less powerless?
Go for a walk, you know, do some meditation. You know, there is so much material on YouTube right now that you don't need anything. You just go onto YouTube, you can find a 5-minute meditation, a 10-minute meditation, or simply put your shoes on and go for a walk if you're able to. And if you can't do that, then just throw your hands in the air, put some music on and dance.
I love that. Dancing, yes.
Absolutely.
And
dancing
you know,
is
also
fantastic.
yoga at home. There's so many resources on there.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, we have access to so much information now. So yeah, just, you know, in like 2020, you know, I remember when 2020 was coming, and I said it was that year of vision, 2020 vision, you can see clearly. And you know, 2020 has been a difficult year for, but it's been one of my best years. I have pivoted so differently and look at the world differently, and actually see that 2020 was, instead of what we all thought it was going to be, it has given us a completely different insight into something that 90% of us or 99% of us didn't see coming. And it's right now where some people are struggling, where work is challenging, their health might be challenging, family life might be challenging. Doing those quick 5-minute things for you, and making yourself your number one project. I think it's so important, particularly as women, that we give and nurture everybody else before ourselves. We are brought up that way. We are natural nurturers. So if somebody needs something, we will always reach out and help. But one of the things that I've really been helping the women that I work with focus on this year is themselves. We have to learn to put ourselves first and make ourselves a priority, because you can't pour from an empty cup. That's one of my favorite sayings. You have to fill yourself up, not just a little bit, right to the top and be overflowing, and then you can help so many more people. It's like when I think it's Sarah that touched on about money. I love talking about money. I think money is its currency, its energy, and when we have more of it, we can help more people, we can do more things, we can just be better. And I think women with money, we just make so much difference to so many lives. And we should never be embarrassed to talk about money. Money is energy and it flows, and there is enough for all of us.
Yes.
I love what you said. Make yourself your number one project. That
100%.
Just prioritize yourself. Absolutely.
100%. I'm not saying don't love your kids, don't love your family, don't love your spouse, not saying that. What I'm saying is we can be way better when we are filled up, when we are, loving ourselves. We can distribute all of what's left. But when we're trying to do it from a space where we're tired, we're exhausted, we don't feel good, then it impacts everybody around us.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing left to give, and what we are giving,
it's
from
half.
that
It's 50,
empty space is tainted. It's tainted with that resentment, that exhaustion, and so it's like, here, I made you an exhausted pie.
Yeah.
I love it, but yeah, here, have a slice of my bitterness. And I think one of the reasons, like, the love. Speaking of, I have somebody tapping on my shoulder. The run. I'm not a runner, but the idea of taking. Do you see that I'm on the phone, my love? Can you wait? Give me a couple of minutes, please.
I just wanted to tell you.
Tell me. Okay. Taking some time for yourself, right? Like on a run, you cannot take care of anybody else. You're not in anybody else's thoughts. There is nobody else in, like, you're just moving too fast, but you're moving for yourself. The way that I've been holding space for people, I hold women's circles, which is like an hour a week, that it's just for each woman to tap into who she is in that moment, to like honor and dedicate that space for her to figure out who she is, what she needs, how she can fill so she can give from plenty. I'm going to go parent for a second.
Absolutely. Can I jump on that? So I just love this idea. I heard this quote and they said, the work is to help others, but there are no others. Because the bottom line is that we're actually all one. We're actually all connected. And so we understand this because when we give to others, that feels good to us, right? We understand that helping others helps us. But what we don't always understand is that helping us helps others.
Helps so many more.
Right? And love is not a zero-sum game. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. The more love you have, the more love you can give and get.
Yes.
And so it's self-creating. That's the magic and the beauty of it.
That's the magic. That's the magic. And I think, I've seen so many exhausted, frustrated, bitter women because they feel like they're just giving everybody, and everybody's just taking. And here's the thing, we teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to treat us. If we are running on empty, don't put ourselves first, allow people to just take, then they're just going to keep on doing it. And then and then something then has to give, and it all gets frustrated and people get annoyed, because suddenly when you go, no, stop, then everybody's like all offended, because it's like, well, you've just been letting this happen and we've been rolling with it. Whereas if you just have those clear, listen, this is my time. I'm going to do this for me at this time, then, and everybody knows, then everyone knows that when you come out of it, I went on holiday for 5 days on the 13th of September. I went to Rhodes with a friend, my female friend, for 5 days, left my husband and kids at home. But my husband knows that when I come back from that, I am happy, I've had a great time, I've been relaxing, sleeping, all of that stuff, and everybody wins. Everybody wins as a result of it. So we have to put ourselves first. I have a, Sierra talks about a women's circle. I have a, what we call self-care Sunday, because I think that's one day of the week where if you can't, you must diary, if you put it in your diary, put an alarm on your phone, whatever that time, carve out that time for yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes to sit and take some big deep breaths. Whatever that self-care is for you. Mine personally usually is a body scrub, facial, that type of thing on a Sunday. But whatever that is that makes you feel good, do that thing. Because when you do and you feel good about you and you are important to you, you have to be important to yourself. Otherwise you can't be important to anybody else. So treat yourself like you are the diamond that you are, is what I say.
Absolutely.
Can I just hop one more thing on that, because I'm completely in alignment with you, Jenny. I want to get my Sunday scrub on, but so in alignment with this, one of the things that I've found most struggle with is this between, I have no boundaries. I have never taught anyone how to take care of me, like, because I'm not taking care of me. And so, like, how do we get from here to here? Right.
Okay.
And once it's established, everyone knows I've got the boundaries, I've got these practices, everyone's cool with it, but there's this perceived huge space. It's not that big. It is, I'm going out, I'll see you later. But energetically, it does have to come from somewhere. And a bunch of the practices that I teach, I call it, it's a whole series of practices, but I call it dating yourself.
Yes.
It's not just because there's this perception that self-care is
selfish. Yeah,
and
it's not.
Selfish.
It's
annually or
it's
something.
Imperative. No.
I asked
every
someone
day.
the other day. I asked someone that I was just meeting. I said, "So how do you take care of yourself?" And she said she slept. And I was like, "That's great. Sleeping's good." But like, if you had said I breathe as a way of taking care of myself, I would call you out on that in a second, because sleep, eat, breathe are
fundamentals,
vital for survival. And so I don't consider them self-care. I'm human and I'm trying to stay alive. So the dating yourself really puts it into very clear terms that we're used to thinking of our primary relationship with a partner. But what if our primary relationship is with ourselves? And there needs to be equal, it doesn't have to be hours, but certainly energetic attention and devotion to cultivating a relationship with self. And I discovered this after having a baby. I was like, I'm in this by myself. I was having a baby by myself, but I was in a relationship with myself that sucked. Adrian, if you were in an abusive relationship with another person, you can leave. It's hard. But when you're in an abusive relationship with yourself, getting out of that is really hard. And so the dating yourself practice like really reframes, who am I to me? How am I showing up to me? How do I talk to myself?
How to talk to yourself, yeah.
All of that. And so moving from this place of like, I have no boundaries, I don't know how to take care of myself. In fact, I'm crueler to myself than I would let anybody be to me, to this place, I take care of myself. I'm kind, I'm gentle, I'm patient. I'll kick my butt, but I'll also be forgiving and understanding. Like, how do you show up for yourself in that like fierce, loving way that I was able to do for my kid, but was like still struggling for myself. So really changing our perception. And this relates back to my birth story, is like, there's me, and then there's me. It's not just my conscious self. It's just not my intentional mind. It's there's more than one me going on here. So how do I show up for all of myself and create time and love in that relationship? So I'm so glad to hear
And I
this.
think you have to write it down. You know, getting out of our heads and getting stuff onto paper, I think is really important. And I think setting goals for yourself, whether that's your fitness goals, your looking after your skin, your hair, whatever that looks like. I always think if you write it down, one of the things I always say to my clients is get yourself a planner. And I think this helps focus families as well, where there might be a little bit of conflict, where people, you know, there is that, how do you get from point A to point B? If it's on I think when you put it on a planner, so all what I call glass ball activities go on a planner. So whether it's work, church, you know, praying, gym, everything goes on this planner. And if you have columns for everybody's activities, and then you put yours on there, then it's visible for everyone to see. Mm-hmm. So then it becomes, so if you know, if the child, you know, your child has swimming and husband's playing golf or partner or whatever, and on there you have my time, then everyone, there's no confusion. And I think that is something that it's imperative that you do that for yourself, because then you teach everybody around you. And I still stand by it. We teach people how to treat us, and we have to lead by example. By how we treat us, people will then treat us. It'll come back.
The last thing
that makes sense.
Can I just drop one more
Sorry,
thing?
I'm going to shut up. Yeah.
I will too. This one idea, like, I know that we started with power, and I think power can be really beautiful, because the last thing I want to share is goals and being driven for me is about desire, which is like actually getting into my body and getting into my soul's purpose, and like it's not just logistics need to happen in there, but it's like once I'm really connected and aligned, for me, there's space for desire, which makes like making the calendar so like sexier. I am invested in making sure that like the logistics work out, because it is my soul. I'm done. Thank you.
I love that. And Jenny, I love that you mentioned planners, because I mean, planners and agendas, they are all on clearance, people. 2020, like nobody's buying planners. Okay. So like go out and buy a planner. They're all in the clearance section. And so I'd love to give this, I'm going to call it a homework assignment, because people love homework, right? And I think that someone's not going to go from being cruel to themselves to going on a run, allowing themselves to do yoga or scrubbing on a Sunday. And so I'd like to give the audience a really simple assignment. And it's a yes, please, no, thank you list. And you need to make this list for you, not for anyone else, but for yourself. And things that are yes are a candle that smells good. It sounds so silly, but I didn't realize how much a candle brings me joy. I'm not a flower person, but I have a friend that is, and she needs to go buy herself some flowers. Exactly. There you go, Jenny. And I feel like my friend needed the permission. She told me, oh my God, I got these flowers. They're amazing. She was describing them. I have no idea what word she was using, because I know nothing about flowers. But I told her, I was like, honey, put it in the budget. Like if flowers are making you this freaking happy, then go buy yourself. You already go to the farmer's market every Saturday. Buy yourself flowers every Saturday. And you know what? She did. And I swear to you, those flowers make her happy. So that obviously goes on her yes, please list. What goes on her no thank you list is following the wrong people on Instagram. I know it sounds so silly, but if you are constantly looking at someone, let's call her Brittany, and Brittany's so fit, or Brittany has the perfect kids and the perfect vacation and the perfect selfies, maybe Brittany's not making you feel very good and you need to unfollow her. And that's okay. Like if you need to do a purge of your life, maybe you're watching too much reality TV and it's not making you feel good. Maybe you're waking up and you're immediately jumping into your email and it's putting you into a bad mood. So really look at your simple day and write a no thank you and a yes please list, and figure out the small things in your life that can change your happiness. Because as wonderful as like starting a yoga practice is, as someone that's absolutely shite at doing anything related to exercise, that didn't make me feel good. I know that yoga brings a lot of people joy, but it made me feel like less fit, less of a person. I actually started my yoga practice, funny enough, Cate, I started it in Korea. And I think we all know Korean women are quite small. Well, I am not small. I am very large. I am full on American, and I'm doing yoga in a different language. And I am just like, wow, I have never felt crappier about myself. And I realized, okay, that goes on my no thank you list. That didn't work for me. Whereas like you, Jenny, I'm a runner. I never thought I would be able to say that, because a year ago I couldn't run a mile, and now I can. And so it turns out that worked for me. And so that goes on my yes, please list. And so whatever it is for you, I want you to go buy an agenda. They're in the clearance section, and write your yes, please, and your no thank you list starting today.
So
I absolutely love that. Sorry. Yes, please, and no thank you is definitely my new in words. I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
And you
So,
know,
oh, go ahead,
yeah.
Cate.
And Jenny, last time and today you've shared, we teach people how to treat us. That's fundamentally correct. And I've used this before, and this works. And Jenny, you said, I love the yes, please, no, thank you list. Those are very practical advice. And yes, Dr. Adrian, you wanted to share something.
Yes. So I want to talk about commitment for a minute, because you said, everybody loves homework. Well, some people get a little freaked out at the idea of homework because it's like somebody assigning us something. And so what I teach people is how to make a commitment to yourself. Right. And so it's just that voluntary, it's just that little difference of like, I'm doing this because I really want to be doing this. So here's a commitment that you could choose to make for yourself. What you could do is you can create in your mind what I call a little mind movie. And it's really simple. It's just putting yourself into your ideal space. That's it. You figure out what it looks like. You figure out what it feels like. You figure out what's going on, how are you bringing meaning into the world in this ideal life. And you just see that in your mind. And you can find pictures that kind of match that a little bit if you're a very visual person. I'm a very audio person, so I find music that helps me just pop right into that space. And I set a little timer. I have a little morning practice. I set a little timer every morning for 15 seconds. That's it. And I just feel myself in that space for 15 seconds a day. Like everyone can spare 15 seconds, okay? But it really sets the tone for my entire day once I do that. And so you're always one commitment away from completely changing your world. You just have to make that one little commitment, right? So I always say the other thing I wanted to jump on is this idea of I love setting time for yourself and putting it on that schedule, because if you talk about something, it's a dream, but once you schedule it, it gets real. Okay. So once you actually put that on the schedule, this is happening. I am doing this. Then it's like, there's no complaining. There's no explaining. You don't have to explain yourself. Oh, I'm going for a walk now. Why? Because I'm going for a walk now. Okay. It's on the schedule, right? It's like, once it's on the schedule, it needs no explanation. It is done. Okay. So the commitment I would like to ask everyone here to make, can you just put 15 seconds of time on your calendar to just feel yourself in your ideal world and picture yourself already there? Not here's where I want to get, but here's where I am in my mind. It's incredibly powerful.
Amazing. Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing, the worldly, practical things to magical, mythical, visionary things that we can all implement. And this bandwidth of the plethora of resources we can implement in our lives can really benefit us moving forward, moving the needle, starting with ourselves and really cultivating that self-love that really helps the other person create love pie.
Love pie.
Love pie. Well, as our time just flew by, I would like to walk us into a 1-minute meditation in closing. So ladies, I welcome you to close our eyes, ladies and gentlemen out there. Then breathe in deep and fill your lungs with air and breathe out all that no longer serves you. Let's take a breath in with the vision of who you are becoming. And breathe out that version no longer serves you. And let's gently bring our awareness to our heart center. Imagine an emerald green light there. Pulsating with your heart, the unconditional love. And feel free to pump that healing energy all throughout your body. And let us enjoy this unconditional love for 15 seconds. And as we bring our awareness to a waking state, please stay to your heart. A thank you for surviving, living, enjoying, and all that you are. Honor yourself, honor ourselves. And then I invite you to open your eyes when you're ready with deep breath in and out. Ladies, thank you very much for your wisdom and practical guidance. Today, our session spoke about balance and power and the implication of mental wellness. We dialogued about balancing inner reality and outer reality and cultivating self-love in inner resilience and love for others, starting with ourselves. Life of Emerald is an impact-driven company. We presented Sacred Healing Summit, Summit number 3. Our panelist, Dr. Adrian, is calling from Seattle. Sarah is calling from New Zealand. Sierra calling from Colombia, and Jenny calling from London. And I am calling from Seoul. And as you can see, we're all connecting the world. Everyone is stationed in different parts of the world, and we feel the same and different about different topics. And at the core, we are truly connected in oneness, in humanity. We are all loving. We wish ourselves and others well. And we are cultivating compassion for our global citizens together. Thank you everyone for joining today. I will link everyone's bio in the YouTube channel. And so everyone, if you feel resonant to of our panelists, please feel free to share, connect with them personally, and they're your coach, and see where you can make the magic moving forward. So this is Life of Emerald. My name is Cate Emerald. I'll see you around. Bye.